biscuit should look like. And there's a little excerpt here. It says, "Leave it to Sharon Benton, the wife of Tennessee bacon master Allen Benton, to have the best recipe for biscuits you'll ever make. With just 2 ingredients, they'll become your new morning go-to." And this is sort of an advertisement for what they have online for August and September of 2016. And it looks like you could eggs, salt, and vanilla. While whisking, pour half of the scalded milk mixture into the egg mixture slowly, taking care not to cook the eggs. Whisk the remaining milk mixture in corn puree. Place the bowl over a saucepan of boiling water and continue to whisk until it is thickened, about 10 to 15 minutes. The mixture should coat the back of a spoon. Chill the mixture completely and place it in an ice cream maker, following the manufacturer's instructions to churn. Cache County at farmers markets. Though if you can't, substitute ordinary pimentos or even Anaheim or banana peppers in Rusing's preparations. If you're going to use them right away, opt for pimentos that are slightly wrinkled. I like them so ripe that they are starting to shrink, Rusing said. Even raw, they are almost jammy. Make a one-pan meal. The incredible sweetness of these peppers is a great counterpoint to shrimp. Saute 1 successful businessmen and their families, and the not so prominent. But something went sadly wrong. Neglect set in sometime after the crash of 1929 and the onset of the Great Depression. Burials continued for a while, but the graveyard slowly disappeared into the forest. Nobody knows exactly how many people are buried here. Some estimates run as high as 60,000 graves in Evergreen alone. And here's chapter 3, or section 3. says Hugh Stubb, Executive Director of Greater Gadsden Area Tourism. Persistent pickers can find everything from well-loved cast iron skillets and vinyl records to such quirky collectibles as vintage typewriters and political buttons. Plenty of taxidermied oddities, too. If you're searching for a pair of squirrels paddling a tiny canoe, you might be in luck. Pace yourself, though, and be sure to arrange a place to sleep in advance. The hotels book up, Stubb says. I-59 parallels the route in Alabama, he adds, and it can provide both an escape from yard sale traffic and better odds of finding a room for the night. Another pro tip, watch for churches, which often raise money by selling rejuvenating meals to road-weary shoppers. 127sale.com. That sounds like fun. And we have some more ads. And one last thing here to read to you. End of the Line by Roy Blunt Jr. Dirty money. A few good reasons why cash is still king. I very rarely see cash exchanged, even for just $3. A 31-year-old marketing executive tells the New York Times. When his credit card number was stolen and he had to traffic in actual cash for a few days, he said, "It was sort of a weird, dirty feeling." Really? That's like saying somebody stole my virtual nutrition code and I had to get nourishment from pieces of a chicken. Or no, in deference to vegans and chickens, let's put it this way. I had to get nourishment from these hard orange things that apparently grow in, like, the dirt. Ew. I know, filthy lucre and all that, but why do we make that little thumb rubbing the first two fingers gesture when we speak of money? It's because we still feel money in terms of greenbacks, simoleons, upfront whip out, as they say in Dan Jenkins' novels. And I know coins today are an encumbrance, but what is even more mindless than it was to play slot machines back in the day? It's to play slot machines now that they don't even pay off in showers or quarters. And let me ask you this. Say you're enjoying a crawfish bowl out on the sidewalk in front of Cosimo's Tavern in New Orleans. $8 for a styrofoam clamshell holding around a pound and a half chock full with antennae sticking out, and the burners under the 5 big pots are whooshing and steam is rising and the mud bugs are getting redder and redder in there, and you ask the man in charge, who has been stirring the pot with a canoe paddle, what that awful overlong baked potato looking thing is that he has pulled out of one of the pots. A knee-high stocking, he explains, full of spices and garlic and stuff. That's the way my uncle did it, says a waiting customer. My aunt would get so mad. My aunt used to say she would know everything was over for her when she started wearing knee-highs, said another customer. And then Prince started wearing them, and one crawfish has evaded the pot and is scuttling towards Esplanade. From there, it's only 30 miles to the Bonner's car, spillway, and home. And people who already have their crawfish are sitting on the curb getting juice down to their chins and up to their elbows. Would you consider it seemly to use a credit card there? Furthermore, if money ever goes entirely abstract, think what it will do to the lyrics of Southern songs. You won't be hearing about any such poignant personal relationships with money as in Billy Joe Shaver singing sad farewell to his bottom dollar. You won't be hearing new artists singing as Ray Charles did about a greenback dollar bill, just a little piece of paper coated with chlorophyll. You won't hear about anybody physically throwing a bottom dollar away out of pride as in Johnny Cash's wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. By the way, if you want to see Cash actually messing with literal cash, check out the 1984 video for Chicken in Black on YouTube. As the story goes, Cash recorded the song, the worst song he could conceive of, to force Columbia to let him out of his contract. The song tells how the man in black had headaches and a surgeon crossed him crossed him up by putting Johnny's brain in a chicken and giving Johnny the brain of a bank robber. So the chicken, along with a surgeon